Well, everyone, I do want to welcome you once again. I'm Ed DeVoe, president of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association. I want to thank Dutchie for not only being terrific members, but great members of the cannabis industry. And you've heard from Ann. We're going to turn it over to Ann and to Peter and let them have their presentation and continue with today's Lunch and Learn. I apologize about the chat feature apparently not being in order, as everyone is not an option. Again, first time I've ever seen that, but we'll do our best to get that information out there as we look at this technical difficulty. So, Ann, thank you so much. Welcome to Lunch and Learn, and I'll turn it over to you and to Peter for today's Lunch and Learn segment.
Thank you so much, Edmund. Well, let's reveal the answer. So the answer is C. On average, people spend 5 times more when using cashless or card payments versus cash. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in this segment. Well, let's get started into the main part of our session. Again, hello, those of you who have just joined us. My name is Ann, Head of Strategic Growth here at Dutchie. I am excited to introduce you to my co-host, Peter, who is our Fearless Leader and Group Product Manager for Payments at Dutchie. Hi, Peter.
Hello, thanks for having me, everybody. I'm excited to be here and talk to everyone about payments.
Perfect. You know a little thing or two about payments, don't you, Peter?
I've done this once or twice before.
Yeah, tiny bit. At Dutchie, we an an all-in-one dispensary tech platform solution with point of sale, e-commerce, and payments, all specifically designed for the cannabis industry. Our mission is to create safe and easy access to cannabis, and we do that by providing compliant tech solutions such as cashless payment options, which we will be digging into later on in this segment. We also have a great session for you today when it comes to everything you need to know about cannabis payments in New Jersey. At any point in the session, feel free to drop your questions in the chat or Q&A section. We'll still be able to see those options. We'll get to as many questions as we can during the live Q&A portion at the end of this session. Now, before we get into the details on the logistics on how we actually take cashless payments, let's take a look at the state of the cannabis payments industry in general. Now, Peter, to say that the cannabis industry has a core set of challenges is probably an understatement, don't you think?
I think it's a big understatement.
Yeah, as we all know, there's definitely a lack of payment and banking options, and even the options that are available. When people hear all these different payment types, even paying with Bitcoin, with crypto, that's even entered the cannabis industry. Not sure, Peter, what your thoughts of crypto or Bitcoin for cannabis payments, if that sounds compliant at all. Like, what do you think?
I don't think it sounds compliant, and I don't think a lot of folks own crypto either to even make the payment.
I don't even know what it is. Like, we could spend a whole nother session on it. If you really think about it too, when you think about cash in general, just the function of cash, there's always bound to be reconciliation issues when you're cashing out at the end of the night. It can also be quite dangerous. Let's say if you're closing, it's the end of the night, you happen to be working by yourself. Many of us, when we're talking to, especially when it comes to retail and dispensary operators, they're having trouble staffing people. It can be quite dangerous having such a large amount of cash all by yourself. Cash can also be, with COVID, cash is dirty. It could be a bit of a super spreader when it comes to the pandemic. And studies show that because of COVID, and especially coming out of the pandemic, people more now than ever prefer non-cash payment options when it comes to shopping and paying. And they want to shop and pay for cannabis the same way they pay for their groceries, they pay for general retail options. So if you see here, studies show that 80% of consumers prefer card payments over cash. Even actually having a physical card is starting to be outdated. People are starting to use their phone as their digital wallet, right? Instead of a big fat regular wallet. Peter, I don't know about you. Like, do you still carry around a big wallet with a big wad of cash and a bunch of cards?
No, I don't. I try to avoid the George Costanza fat wallet syndrome for our Seinfeld folks out there. And even when I go to the coffee shop, I use my Apple Watch on my dog walk in the morning to make my purchase. So I think, our goal in normalizing payments and bringing that kind of same experience into cannabis is something I'm really focused on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that your scenario is the norm and not the exception these days. Now, as we've seen that studies also show that people tend to spend more when it comes to non-cash options. You saw in the beginning during our pop quiz, people spend up to 5 times more with cashless versus cash. I was always curious why, and it wasn't until our Dutchy CEO and co-founder, Ross Lipson, he was explaining at one of our all hands his own experience when he went to Oregon in Bend, Oregon, a dispensary in Bend, Oregon, Bend, where Dutchy is headquartered. Now, if you really think about it, when you're dealing with cash and you go to a dispensary and you take out a maximum, say $20, that is the maximum you're allowed to spend. Bud tenders won't have that opportunity to upsell you. You can't give in to those impulse buys. However, when you spend directly from your bank account, that's a different story. We're starting to see the same trends in our own payment processing experience here at Dutchy, which brings us to the main part of our session, cannabis payment processing. Processing or processing? Peter, what do you say?
Well, both.
I'm Canadian, so I don't know if it's a Canadian.
I think it's processing.
Processing. It is what it is. Oh, it's another pop quiz time. So let's do another pop quiz. Let's see if the chat feature works this time. Who knows? Maybe it just magically started working again. Those of you in the audience, who knows what ACH stands for? Again, feel free to drop your answers in the chat, or maybe try to guess what it stands for. We'll give it 1-2 more seconds before Peter tells us the answer. Now, Peter, your job is kind of on the line if you don't know the answer to that.
Well, I appreciate the pause so I can Google it real quick. So I'll have something for you.
Okay, good. Okay, I think we've given enough time. Peter, what does ACH stand for?
Automated Clearinghouse.
That is correct.
Yes.
Now, for those of us listening who may not be super techy, what does automated clearinghouse do?
It's a infrastructure that allows bank-to-bank transfers of money at its very basic level. If folks have ever connected a personal account to their checking account and then use that like a PayPal or Venmo to transfer funds, behind the scenes, money is moving between banks on this automated clearinghouse between your checking account and the business who you're dealing with's checking account.
Got it. So we, as you we mentioned it earlier, we do have our own ACH solution called Dutchy Pay. We have seen some benefits that our clients have experienced firsthand that we'd like to share with you on the right-hand side there. And Peter, why don't you just dig into that a little bit more and talk about some of these benefits of ACH?
Totally. So I'd like to focus on two of the four here, the seamless integration and the order value. So I'll start with seamless integration. Why that's important is for a couple of reasons. One, reporting. So as consumers are making purchases on e-com or eventually on point of sale, because our system is both facilitating this transfer of funds and also then reporting on it, we're able to easily explain and visualize to your bud tenders, your CFOs, your accountants, when the funds will be deposited in their account, what the tips were on these transactions, what the fees were, all the kind of things that go into your reconciliation between your bank account and your end of day reports and your settlement reports are all handled within our point of sale. And you get that because we have an end-to-end system that's allowing for that transfer to happen. The other thing, and Ann touched upon this earlier, is order value. The great thing about this is that there's a benefit on both sides of the marketplace. The consumer is not limited by what I call cash on hand. Like if I have, as Ann pointed out, I'm going to say $100 because I'm a big spender. If I have $100, I'm limited by that. And then, when it's taxes, and then I want to be able to tip my bud tender as well, that all needs to be accounted for, is not necessarily obvious as I'm first selecting out the products I want to purchase, right? Then of course, on the retailer side, you're able to upsell, the bud tenders are able to get tips, and you're not limited by the consumer standing in front of you going, well, I only have this much, and so we're going to have to set the other things aside. So I think those are two really great opportunities that benefit both sides of this equation and really speak to the power of our system.
Love it. I think I heard the term Omni-Commerce even, like that's becoming a thing. So
yes.
Yeah, just everything all integrated and truly like talking to one another. So thank you for explaining just, the benefits and what it stands for, but let's dig into what that end consumer experience is. So for example, if I want to pay with an ACH solution, whether it's Dutchie Pay or whatever, that initial sign up process for that end user, I've heard that it feels similar to, let's say, a PayPal or a Venmo. I remember signing up for PayPal back in the day, gosh, a while ago, where initially I need to link up my bank account. Is that correct? Or why don't you go through a bit like that experience?
Yeah, no, you're on the right track. You're headed in the right direction with that. Yeah. So what'll happen on the consumer side when they're browsing a dispensary's website that has Dutchie Pay enabled, our ACH product called Dutchie Pay. I think we touched on that.
Yep.
They'll be able to create an account, and then what they'll do is through our banking connection partner, they'll be able to securely enter in their credentials. And I want to note that we don't see any of their information, both in their credentials or any of their account information. And what they'll be able to do is punch in their credentials. They will take into their banks, securely take into their bank's website, and be able to select from either their checking or savings account. And this is the account that they will use to have the funds withdrawn. In accounting terms, we would say debited from their account as part of this payment process. The great thing about this, once it's complete, is that's it. It's a one-time setup process to connect your account. After that, you go to any dispensary or any e-commerce site that has this solution. You sign in with your Dutchie account, and you can make a purchase online. There's no need to go through this process a second step. So once that's completed, you're off to the races in terms of making your purchases. Which is what it speaks to here. It's very optimized for mobile. We see a majority of our traffic is on mobile. I think that's a way that a lot of folks interact with media these days is on their phones or tablets. And so this is a very seamless experience. In fact, if you're on your mobile device and you need to connect your bank account, in some cases, depending on the technology, I'll skip the details, it will actually take you to your bank's app, and you'll be able to complete that linkage there. So it's a as we call them in my world, a use case, a user experience is very people are familiar with. Right. So they'll feel confident that they've seen this before, and this is something that they've done in other areas. And that's how they'll also connect their accounts for our service as well.
Yeah, that scenario is almost like if someone sent you money and you want to deposit it in a bank account, that it could, you select your bank account, and then as soon as you select your bank account, that automatically goes to your bank's app. And so, like you said, Peter, it feels very frictionless. It feels very familiar. People trust that.
I'm sorry, Anna, Peter. Yeah. So we do have the chat feature back up. Yay!
Okay. Yay.
So we a couple of questions, and maybe you'll get to it in your presentation. But first question: how does this work with respect to maybe some of the challenges that our members and people entering the industry face with banking. Banking is always this huge question, right? How do I work with my bank? It's cannabis. So how have you guys been able to create such a neat program, a neat app, in light of some of the concerns around banking?
That's a great question. We do have, the great thing about New Jersey is that New Jersey does have quite a few banks and credit unions that are cannabis friendly, which means you don't have to hide the fact that you need a bank account for your dispensary business. I think that we've got, I don't remember them off the top of my head, but we can save it at the very end. We do have a dedicated Q&A portion at the very end. So if you're good with that, love it that the chat feature is back though. So keep those questions coming throughout the presentation. And if it's okay with you, we'll address it at the end, and then we can rip through as many questions as we can.
Cool, you got it, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So I know that we talked a lot about the online experience, and now ACH, that can also be used in store as well. Is that correct, Peter?
That is correct. Yeah. So there's two different use cases, I'll say. The first one is you're a consumer and you're browsing online, you make a purchase for either pickup or delivery. That's very common. I do that here. I'm in San Jose, California. Do that very regularly at a local dispensary here. The other option is that you're driving by the dispensary, kind of more impromptu, and you say, hey, I want to stop in and get, X, Y, that kind of thing, right? So that's different in that it's not originated on the website and then sent into the dispensary. So what we've done through the same process, you would need to still link your bank account to your Dutchie account. But what this allows you to do is to go into the dispensary more impromptu, pick out whatever products you like as you would normally would, and then our system will be able to see on the point of sale side that you have an associated Dutchie Pay account. And so as you get to go through the checkout process, the bud tender will see that, hey, you have a Dutchie Pay account, and ask you, would you like to use it? You would say yes, I think, and you would get. So what would happen then is the bud tender would send you an SMS with a link. You would click on that link and it would open to a screen similar to this. And what I'm super excited about this is doing it this way allows the consumer to leave a tip. We think that's super important and vital to this whole process for your bud tenders, for your business, for just the overall experience. Much better if you can leave a tip and also review your total one more time before you actually complete the purchase. So the consumer would open up this link, look at it on their phone, be like, that looks great, gonna add a tip, and then pay for it that way. So again, very similar use case to what you would do online. You're just doing it in store, and you didn't have to, let's say, plan ahead to make this purchase, but ultimately you're still being able to select whatever you want because you're using this ACH product that allows you to not be limited by the kind of cash you have on hand.
And like you said earlier, you only need to link it once, right?
Correct.
And then once you return back to that dispensary, you don't need to relink
Correct.
and re-sign up for ACH.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yep. So this
then,
is just a little bit like you would see in our Leaf Logics, you would see in the point of sale, you would see an option to select Dutchie Pay, you'd select that, we would go through the sending the SMS link, and then you would, the phone is representing what the consumer sees. So we're trying to kind of articulate both sides of that transaction for folks on the call.
Oh, I love that. This is the first time I've seen that. I love our group hug logo.
Just whip that out, whip that up, overnight. I know, magic.
Always. This is to be at. We are very passionate about lunch and learns. So thank you so much. Just to recap some of the advantages, this really does seem like a win-win scenario. Like we mentioned before, it's a lot safer just to reduce the cash-only burdens, both from a security, keeping your staff safe standpoint, and a cash handling germ super spreader standpoint too. Reconciliation is a lot easier. Tips for staff, super important to tip your bud tender. Overall frictionless, faster checkouts, and all that good stuff. And also just to showcase some real world stats. We just got these stats yesterday. So a lot of this is the very first time we're even showing these stats. So You heard it here first on New Jersey CannaBusiness Lunch and Learn. Join the association if you haven't yet. Right, Ed?
You know what? There is nothing shameful about a plug. So thank you.
Yeah, we haven't even seen these stats. I don't even know if Peter's seen these actually.
No, I've seen these stats. I did see.
You want to walk us through these stats because this is really exciting.
Yeah, happy to do it. So I think the loyalty is a big one. Like we said, once you create your account and link this once, then we see a tremendous amount of folks returning and using the same checkout feature. You know, what that does is it's already selected for them. So they've already added items to their cart. They get to the cart screen on e-com on the website. Already selected, they just hit complete order. So it really creates a seamless process, and we see that in terms of return users and the increase in frequency. As we also talked about the AOV lift, this is a real number. I double checked with our analyst team. This is statistically significant in terms of how we arrived at this, and folks are ordering at a significantly higher. So average order volume. So the total in their cart is higher when they're using Dutchie Pay than when they're not. So we're super excited about that. And then I think folks can see the millennial consumers. It's a bit younger than the average, and I think that really speaks to folks using their mobile devices and looking to pay in kind of the newer digital form. So I think that number really reinforces what we're seeing as well. So super excited about these numbers and really stoked to be sharing with y'all for the first time.
Yeah, they don't have the George Costanza wallet, or probably they don't even know who George Costanza
I wouldn't know that
is.
reference, yeah.
Probably weren't born yet. I don't know. Fact check that. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the end user and the consumer. So it's not just dispensaries that benefit consumers. They do have a lot of advantages as well too. So again, it's like a really seamless checkout experience. And Peter touched upon this before, just having more payment flexibility, more product purchasing freedom. So just that last minute impulse buy, it does open up that choice a lot more. Peter, I don't know if you want to add anything else before we wrap up this section.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, audience, for sticking with us through the session so far. Edmund asked about this a little bit earlier. We are just about to launch into our Q&A session, so keep those questions coming. But before we dive into our Q&A, one thing to note in New Jersey, that when you are opening up a bank account, it really is important to make sure that your bank does support cashless options like ACH. This is the direction that retail is going in, the cannabis industry is going in. So you want to make sure that whatever bank you pick, they will be able to scale out and grow as your needs and business scales out and grows with you. We want to be able to support some of these payment best practices in New Jersey. And when you see here, there are some New Jersey cannabis friendly banks. So BCB Bank, Valley Bank, Financial Resources Credit Union. Shout out to our preferred partners, Peter from Green Check Verified and Brendan from Minority Business Academy. They were the ones that actually recommended some of these New Jersey specific cannabis friendly banks. Feel free to hit us up directly too if you have any more questions about that. But now, okay, now Edmund, now it's time to launch into our Q&A. So appreciate you facilitating that. If that's
excellent.
Okay.
No, thank you so much. What a great presentation. And again, we're just so proud at the NJCBA to have you as members and to be working with you. So the first question that came from Richard Park. Can cannabis businesses use Dutchie to pay each other? So I guess that's if I'm purchasing product from a manufacturer, I'm a retailer, can I use Dutchie for intercompany transactions?
Peter, do you want to answer that? Is that on the roadmap?
It's on the roadmap, not yet, but the same let's call it architecture, the same methodology that we talked about for consumers could very well be used for B2B payments as well. So I will take that back to the folks on my team, but certainly something that we're thinking about.
Yeah, something we think about, not yet. We've got a lot going on. It is all about, at Dutchy, we are all about being dispensary first. So we want to address this payment need at the dispensary level and possibly think about B2B in the future. But great
Excellent.
Suggestion.
Great. And thank you. I do know with us today are a couple of our newly licensed dispensary applicants. So I want to welcome them. So thank you for pointing that out, that you are dispensary or retail oriented. Next question, also from Richard. How long does the checkout process take using the SMS text? Does it lengthen the time of the process, or is it quote unquote normal?
I would say it skews towards quote unquote normal. There is some amount of time that the consumer would be looking at their phone, deciding on the tip, and just reviewing things. So it varies a little bit, but we don't think it's outside of the normal expected payment time compared to other options that are out there.
Okay. So a question now about fees, and maybe this is somewhat confidential on your part, but I'll ask, what fees does Dutchy charge? What do you charge the dispensary or the retail facility? And what is possibly charged to the consumer?
I
I'll
don't
take
know
that.
the answer to that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I can take it. Yeah, so there is a processing fee, much like in more established industries like credit cards and that kind of thing. So there's a processing fee. Right now, the consumer is not charged a fee for using Dutchy Pay, but there is a fee, processing fee as part of the retailer. And that's something certainly that our sales team and folks could happy to talk with you all about and discuss what the options are for that. Excellent.
So what also, if you would please, in the chat feature, if you could put down your contact information so that our viewers can contact you with maybe some questions that didn't get asked or come up later. So thank you for that. The question, support for debit cards, or is it only ACH transactions?
So what we talked about today is ACH transactions. To go a little one click more, the money from a debit transaction or an ACH transaction does come out of the same checking account. But what we talk about here is solely just for connecting your bank account to use for an ACH transaction.
Okay. Now this is an interesting question. Do you ping an account to see if there's enough in the balance to do a transaction? In fact, if it's after quote unquote banking hours, right? Like if it's a 6 o'clock transaction, can you do that? Can you check that out?
That's a great question. I feel like someone knows a bit more about payments. So now I'm really in the hot seat. But the short answer is yes, we do that. The long answer is more time than we have, I think, on this call. But we do have a method to what I call like balance viability. So when somebody adds, let's say, $200 to their cart, we do have a way to determine, how likely it is that consumer will be able to fund that transaction. So yes, that's something we're actively, it's in production and something we utilize. Yes.
So I know, and this is not a question that's here on the chat feature, but I think it's always important as people enter into this new industry. We're dealing with newer companies, new processes. What is my personal security like? What are my concerns as I get the Dutchy app and I'm doing transactions through Dutchy? I know I should feel safe, but tell me how safe I should feel about doing those transactions.
You should feel very safe. Everything is encrypted per the latest standards. As I said, we, Dutchy, do not see the sensitive information at all. That is all encrypted. It's all tokenized, which may not mean a lot to folks, but that's a long encryption string that is, nobody has the computing power, at least on this call, to break that kind of encryption. So yeah, that's what I would say is, and we're working with trusted industry partners to do this bank connection as well. So they're known names and folks that are doing this at even larger scales than we are. So this is not, there has not been a reinvention of the wheel in terms of how this connection works or how the encryption and security has been applied to it.
I also think it's important at Dutchy, just the caliber of staff that I'm grateful enough to call my coworkers now. We have hired senior leadership staff that came directly from like the PayPal and the Square and the Stripes of the world. So just to double tap on what Peter said, the people who are leading this initiative and leading this charge, and they're the ones building this out for the cannabis industry. They've done this before, back when PayPal was just starting up. And at Dutchy, we're here to bring that level of expertise into the cannabis industry.
It's a good call. For folks' context, I previously was at Intuit working on card present and online invoice payments, actually building card reader from scratch for card present payments, and also then having to integrate PayPal into Intuit payments. So
was that all you did?
That was all I did.
That's it.
Had a lot of free time.
Great. Well, guys, I want to thank you. Before I give it to you for some closing remarks, let me, again, Ed DeVoe, president of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association. We are the state's first and remain the largest trade association for the cannabis industry. We are your cannabis chamber of commerce. We thank you for your support. We thank you for your membership. I want to thank our sponsors, Burton, Trent Public Affairs, Curaleaf, of course, Dutchy, Financial Resources Federal Credit Union, a new sponsor, PROTEUS 420, Puffin Entrepreneurs and Investors, Saks LLP, the Sheet Metal Workers, Local 19, Sprague Energy, our energy partner. You'll be reading about that very soon. It's the Syska Hennessy Group. We want to also remind you, July 28th, it's a Thursday. We are having another B2B networking event. It's a barbecue. It's a summer barbecue. Guess what? I will not be in a blazer. I will not be all dressed up. I will actually be in shorts that day. Even in inclement weather, we have a spot. So I will actually be casual that day. So again, Ann, Peter, I want to thank you guys so much for being here on another segment of Lunch and Learn. Any closing thoughts, closing remarks?
I've got just a couple more slides, like with our LinkedIn contact information.
Please.
I can share out my screen again. Ed, I think you might need to allow me to be a co-host. Perfect. So just share this out. Again, thank you, Ed, for having Dutchy here today. Peter and I are super excited, and we've been looking forward to doing a lunch and learn with you guys for a long time. We're at Dutchy, again, we're your one-stop shop for cannabis point of sale, e-com, and payment solutions. If you have any questions on New Jersey payments, anything at all that we went through today during our session, please feel free to send Peter or myself a note on LinkedIn. That is our contact information right there. Thanks again for joining us, and guess enjoy the rest of your day.
Great. Everyone, thanks for joining us at Lunch and Learn. Please enjoy the weekend. Have a happy summer. Have a great summer. Always visit our website. Check out coming events. Frank Almeida, Financial Resources, I see you there. Thank you for all that you do. Everyone, have a happy, safe summer. There may be a Lunch and Learn that pops up, so please visit our website. Stay abreast of our coming events, as well as information that's happening in the industry. We've been fortunate to have a great relationship with the CRC. As you know, they have appeared on Lunch and Learn on a couple of different occasions. So we're very proud of that relationship. We're proud of all of our sponsors, and we're proud of all of you, all of our new license holders. So again, Ann, Peter, Dutchie, thank you so much. And I think I'll use the term processing myself.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Great,
Bye.
everyone. Enjoy your
Bye.
weekend. Take care.
Bye.